Oh well. That just cuts out. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. I always do the wrong one first. Put them there. And that's good. Easy movement. Oh, that's cool. It's the cheese! Thank you for the follow, Gers. Oh, God. Gersi Loshi? Kind of like a dynamic title screen. All right. That's. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Oh, God. It's not happening. There we go. I wish we hadn't been thrown out like that. I wish we'd managed to find some clue as to what the speckled band might be. We didn't manage to investigate at all. And I imagine that we won't be able to for a while longer. We'll never get past that sailor guarding the door. He's clearly He's clearly glaring at us as if to say, don't even think about it. Oh, wait a minute. What is it? Well, what happened to our great detective friend? Where did he go? Oh yes, he completely disappeared. When did he do that? He slipped away as quietly as the wind, but not before ensuring these were securely back on my wrists. Hello. Really wish we had a chance to look around in Miss Pavlova's cabin. Hello, Mr. Stroganoff. What? Why you look like that? You want something? Hmm? Maybe you want me to throw you out again, hmm? Oh no, definitely not that. Next time I have to throw you out, I show you where lobsters spend winter. Understand? Understand. Maybe I should steer clear of him until he's forgotten my face. I don't think he'll ever forget your face, Naruto-san. Let's see. He still can't get out. Second class area. It's locked. Can't open it. No, well, that stands to reason. No one wants to let the murderer escape. Gosh, she gave me a really stern look when she said that. Alright, I guess the only other place we can go is back to our crime scene. Looks like they're still investigating in here. Yes. On that subject, I wonder if Inspector Hosonaga is unscathed. What do you mean, unscathed? Surely you haven't forgotten, have you? Don't you remember what he said about allowing you out of this cabin to investigate? I was gonna talk to the captain about it. Said he'd lay his life on the line for you. Oh, yes. But I'm sure he was exaggerating. See what he has to say for himself. Might have some new information for us. You never know. Oh, there he is. Oh, God. Ah, you're back. Inspector, what happened to you? Your face is... Please, don't worry about it. They're just scratches. Made by a bear, maybe. When I told the captain I'd given you permission to investigate, he told me he'd pummel me with his fists and then toss me overboard. What? But the pummeling was over in a flash, and he must have decided against throwing me overboard. So it was nothing, really. Looks like he wasn't joking when he said he'd lay his life on the line if he had to. Well, thanks to your efforts, we now know a little about our neighboring cabin. Yes, so I understand. Oh. I bumped into a man claiming to be a great detective a little while ago. I think his name was something like Erlock Sholmes. I don't think he was German, though. Ah, that explains it. Shall we compare notes, then? We can tell you what we found out. Yes, let's do it. Hi, Tucker. Nikolina Pavlova? She's in the cabin next door? Oh, do you know who she is? Please, what self-respecting ballet fan wouldn't know that graceful angel? Oops. I think I upset him there. Well, that tells us a neighboring cabin is unrelated to the case, at least. Oh? How? Because angels don't go around committing crimes, do they? Now I definitely upset him. Inspector, has your investigation in here proved fruitful? If I'm honest, there's very little more I can do. Our duty is to make sure the scene isn't disturbed, ready to hand over to the Hong Kong police. So I'm just keeping watch here, trying not to take my eyes off the job. Oh, I see. Ah, there's one thing. I do have a small piece of new information for you. What is this new information you have? It's this. The Buria's medical officer has finished his examination of the body. I managed to obtain the report. Oh. Kazma's post-mortem report. Kazuma-sama. So, what was the cause of death? Damage to the cervical vertebrae. What's written in the report. His neck was broken? Yes, it would seem so. There were no obvious wounds or other signs of injury, so at first I think they were considering poison. But it turns out they found no trace of poison in his system at all. Well, what weapon was used then? Nothing has been found yet. The fact there is no signs of a wound suggests it may have been a blunt object, something that wouldn't leave a mark. Oh, I see. All the body's nerves run from the spine to the brain. A strong enough impact to the neck could induce death. It's a possibility. Sippy. Hi, Sneak. And no obvious wound would be left. Poor Kazuma. I have a second copy of the report. If it might be useful, you're welcome to have it. Really? Are you sure? Yes, it's fine. I trust you. After all, if I didn't trust you, I'd never have agreed to you leaving this cabin in the first place, would I? Ah. Okay. Let's take a look at this. Sneeve, I think you've played this before. Sometime between 1 a.m. and a little past 2 a.m. Strong blow to the area. Oh, Mr. Sholmes was here, was he? Yes. He seemed to be enjoying himself a little too much as he crept about the floor investigating. But then he suddenly left. I suppose he must have become bored. Did he say anything at all? Actually, now you mention it, yes. Just one thing, but he practically shouted it. It's shoe polish, was all he said. Shoe polish? I wonder what he meant. It was when he was over there, by the piece of broken glass. Do you see? Ah, perhaps he was talking about this brick-colored mark, do you think? That must be it. But how can Mr. Sholmes know that it's shoe polish? It leaves me cold, I'm afraid. I have no idea. What is it, Susada-san? Well, Kazuma-sama was wearing leather shoes with a very dark tan hue. Dark tan? Sort of like a dark brownish red, then. Yes, a little like the color of red wine, but darker. I often repaired them for him. Oh, does this mean that this mark was made by the polish on his shoes as they scuffed the floor? It's really all I can tell you at this stage. I should return to my post. My fellow crewmen's eyes are boring into the back of my head. Yes, that might be for the best. Thank you. I mean... So, there's always a chance that the postmortem report is just wrong and it was actually poison. But it wouldn't have been poison in the meal. I'm thinking... Because in the beginning we also had that bit about the speckled band being a snake in the Sherlock Holmes story. So... I want to say maybe Pavlova's pet is a snake and it managed to escape into this cabin. Oh. I feel terrible that I failed to protect Asogi-san. He was my responsibility. Of course, my pain is nothing compared to yours. You were his friends. The truth is, I seem to have had a heavy head ever since I woke this morning. A heavy head? That's interesting. My head's still throbbing, too. You! Where did you go? Oh, sorry, I just went to the next door cabin to investigate. Why? Who gave you permission for this? Well, I mean, Seaman Hasanaga did. That new Japanese, was it? Later, I will roll him into ball and throw him into cold room. Whew, he's going back to guarding the door. I hope Inspector Hasanaga doesn't find himself in too much trouble on our account. He's really gone out of his way to help us, hasn't he? When we get back to Japan, I'll have to take him for a steak at La Carnival. That could be a very long time from now, Naruhodo-san. Okay. But we're also getting the note that everyone kind of has some head injury. Like maybe some drugged food or something. Really such a beautiful color, this glass. Looks like whatever it was is broken clean in two, but the other half is nowhere to be seen. And then there's the brick-colored mark. shoe polish, according to that great detective you seem to know all about. Suppose it must be from Kazuma-sama's shoes. How can the detective be so sure that it's shoe polish and not something else? Because he's a great detective, of course. That's hardly a reason, is it? It's clear that these letters were written with the ink that was somehow spelt on the floor. And they spell the Russian word for wardrobe. It does seem to be an unambiguous pointer to you, as you were sleeping in there. But to be truly unambiguous, it should have just spelt out my name, don't you think? Either way, one fact remains. It's hard to imagine that Kazuma-sama would have written his last words, or word, in Russian. Which begs the question of who did write it. Can we check out the desk now? Faint whistling. Left has a valuable clue in these words, I'm sure of it. So, the current... He was sitting here, but that doesn't make sense. Because all this stuff over here has been, like, knocked over. Books provided for passengers occupying this cabin, neatly arranged on the shelf. All over the place when we first looked around. Tidied them up. You have to look after the ship properly. The ship's property. Unruly behavior in the cabin leads to damage. But it really wasn't me who knocked them over. Well, anyway, I feel much better now they're neatly lined up. I can't relax when things are untidy. These are magical grate. Ventilator joins to Miss Pavlova's cabin. Just a few minutes before he died, Kazuma saw something emerging from it. The speckled band, as he described it. If only Miss Pavlova had been able to shed some light on it, but she seemed as baffled as we were. Wondered if she's telling us everything, though. I'm not sure. I know most people aboard would say the same about me, but there was something about that woman that didn't sit right with me. Do not a quick sweep. Ooh, he's gone. Ah! Look, Naruto-san. Seaman Stroganov is gone. Strong enough? The burly Russian sailor who's always crossing his arms and glaring at us. Ugh, all these Russian names are impossible to remember. Tra-la-la. Did you hear that? It sounded like someone singing. Tra-la-la-li-ra-li-ra-lay. I did it, the great This caroling. I know that lark-like voice. Well, never mind that now. This is a golden opportunity for us. Yes, you're right. We must seize it. Let's get inside Miss Pavlova's cabin while we can and investigate. Definitely, before that stringy knot crewman comes back. It's stroganoff, not stringy knot. Oh, so she gives little tips on when stuff needs to be... when there's more stuff to investigate? I keep thinking, like, I need to use the bumpers in order to, switch screens. Okay, fine. Oh, it's Mr. Sholmes. Look. Wow. You never know where he's gonna turn up next, do you? He seems to be stealing a look at something as he sings to himself. I only have one cough drop left. He's still singing. Do you think he hasn't noticed us? Always in extremely high spirits. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when the yard bit off more than it could chew. And through it all, when there was doubt, it's luckier luck was about. Excuse me. I solved it all and I stood tall. I did it the great detective way. Mr. Sholmes! What is it? You want to fight? Honestly, interrupting a fellow when he's singing. And I was just about to reach the climactic finish. Sorry, I thought you were never going to stop. So I figured now's a good time as any. I very nearly dropped you to the floor with one of my famous right hooks. Alright, I get the picture. Now, can you put those fists away? Discombobulate. Mr. Sholmes, you seem to be examining something before we interrupted you. Ah, yes. That. I was immersed in the study of the ship's log, as penned by the stockily-built crewman, who's usually on guard here. Oh yes, the ship's log. Did you find out anything useful from it? Well, after 2 a.m. this morning, the majority of the entries are blank. Which means that there was nothing to report. Nothing of note happened, so... You truly are a student from the land of the rising sun. You've been utterly blinded by it. Discombobulate. Right hook. Discombobulate. Your logic, my boy, is inverted. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? Observe all the other pages, and all shall become clear. I believe when we looked at it before, it said there were a lot of notes taken on literally every other time except after 2 a.m. Seems the same crewman oft stands sentry in the first-class passageway, and he has an almost religious practice of recording nothing to report every half hour. Writes that in every 30 minutes? Nothing to report. Precisely. Put simply, the seaman writes nothing to report when there is just that. And yet, the ship's log from last night is largely blank. So he was busy during all that time. Do you mean... Yes. There were circumstances afoot last night, which led to the seaman being absent from his post. What kind of circumstances? What happened? That remains a mystery for now. We can be sure something significant took place. So significant that it caused the seaman to forget his regular habit of scribing nothing to report in the log. These are important details. I would stake my life on it. You must log the ship's log in your mental file. Now that deduction was worthy of a great detective. Ah, you're starting to understand what my way is, I see. What makes Sholmes, Sholmes. Brilliance. Oh, ow. What is it? Are you hurt? Oh, don't worry yourself. I seem to be afflicted with a throbbing head this morning for some reason. Nothing more. You're the third person to report that. Well, my friends, until our next encounter. He's still singing to himself. I can hear it as he wanders off down the passageway. Something wrong? I seem lost in thought, but not all alone. It's just, well, I feel the same. Ever since I woke this morning, I've had something of a headache. Sort of continuous throbbing. Oh, you too? Miss Pavlova isn't back yet. Susada-san. Oh, where's she gone? Hey, what are you doing? Those are our private things. There's not a moment to waste. We must investigate as quickly as we can. I suppose you're right. For Kazuma's sake. Not just for Kazuma-sama. What do you mean? It can't be long now until we arrive at port in Hong Kong. I don't want you to be in those handcuffs when we get there. Really? We must solve this case, Naruhodo-san. By ourselves if we have to. Yes, we will. Alright, we got things we can look at. She didn't want us to take a look at these books. All the books have toppled over together. Look, every single one. Do you think that's a god of the sea, perhaps? He's toppled too, though. It's exactly the same as the bookcase next door, in Kazuma's cabin. Perhaps Miss Pavlova was practicing a difficult ballet pose and fell against the bookcase. I don't know. Would she really be practicing ballet on the same night she ran away from her ballet company? Alright then. It must have been you. You lost your temper and knocked them all over in a fit of rage. Not everything that bad that happens on this ship is because of me, you know. Well, anyway, I'll set them all straight again in here, too. I don't like seeing things in disarray. We're gonna be accused of theft. Are you there? Sorry? I'm right here. Yes. Why? Oh, good. I thought you might have climbed into the wardrobe when I wasn't looking. There's no place like home. Believe me, I don't have some strange compulsion to jump inside every wardrobe I see, you know. Well, anyway, I'm not sure anyone could fit inside this one. It's full of beautiful outfits. I suppose they're all stage costumes. I was rather hoping we'd find Miss Pavlova's friend hiding in there, but no such luck. This is one of the bells. It's a bell cord. I can't resist. No! We're supposed to be sneaky in here! She barely hesitated there. She gave it a good tug, too. No, I didn't actually expect anyone to come. We don't want them to. We're trying to investigate in secret. This connects to Kazuma's cabin. Although what a foolish shipbuilder must be to open a ventilator into another room. Ah, maybe so that if there's a gas leak next door, the occupant of this cabin would notice and raise the alarm. Or the occupants of both cabins would die of gas poisoning. It is a possibility. Anyway, last night, Cosmo wrote that he saw a speckled band coming out of this ventilator. Oh my, Miss Pavlova's case is open. It's completely empty inside, but according to the great detective's great deduction, she was hiding her special friend in there. Yes, a friend that she had to keep secret. Because you're not allowed to bring animals on board the SS Burya. Where is it now? Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Ah, what's that? Oh god, it's the Blitz. Shut down the engines immediately. Vessel sighted, quarter mile 4. Full stop, hard to starboard. All hands, brace for impact. I think we're about to crash into another ship. What? I can't stand. Susato-san, hold on to me. Ah! Susato-san, are you alright? Are you injured at all? I think I'm fine. Thank you, Naruhodo-san. Looks like we avoided a collision. I think. Yeah, the ship has come to a stop. Oh my goodness, what about you? Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. Hello, is anyone in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like Inspector Hasanaga. Is that you in there, Naruhodo-san? Unbolt the door, quickly. What? The bolts? Look at that! The door's bolted. Did you do that? No, I didn't touch it. Well, that's strange. How did... He'd look at all the books. Just like they were before again. So I'm wondering if it was... I'm wondering if just... This speckled band is just a red herring and... Like, there was some turbulence on the ship. Kazuma, like, slipped because his shoes were polished. No, because then that doesn't explain the Russian writing. Better tidy this place up first. Our violent emergency stop had solved one mystery, at least, in a very vivid way. But I knew that what awaited us on the other side of the cabin door would not be pleasant. I hurried around, tidying up the cabin with a new sense of foreboding in my heart. Well, we know how at least the door got locked. So yeah, someone could have gotten in because the door locked. Somehow, the door to the cabin we were in ended up bolted after we made an emergency stop. Susanoo-san took a deep breath, then gently slid back the bolt. Ah, fuck. You! What are you doing in Miss Pavlova's quarters? Ah, you both look unhurt. Good. Yes, we're fine. Thank you. What on earth happened? We heard something about how we were gonna collide with another ship. Yes, it appears to have been a false report, though. Oh, how did that happen? There's a dense fog outside, so it's extremely difficult to see. Someone must have thought he saw a ship ahead. Person obviously triggered the alarm, and that's why we made an emergency stop. Everything is chaos. Passengers are screaming. Crew are running everywhere. This first-class area is the only quiet part of the ship at the moment. Oh, I see. Someone triggered the alarm. Does that mean that someone pressed that button outside.
Ah! You wicked intruder, dressed all in black. You are the devil.
Sorry, me? I've been called a lot of things before, but devil is a first.
You opened my traveling case. How could you?
What? No, we didn't touch it.
That's right, Miss Pavlova. It was already open when we came to your cabin. Inspector.
Yes?
Arrest this man. I know he did it. He is a criminal. Is that not enough? He has killed a man?
Da, and he is a stowaway as well. If Vixen promises not to steal chicken, do you believe?
Take him away. He's a trespasser as well as everything else.
Stowing away, trespassing, killing. She is right. You are the devil. Doesn't look good, does it? There's a cell below deck. Throw him in. Tomorrow we dock in Hong Kong. Then we give you straight to police.
Wait, a cell? Please, Inspector Hasanaga, is there nothing you can do?
This is a Russian vessel. I really have no jurisdiction here. After my last effort to appeal to the captain's good nature, I think I'm out of options. This is terrible. This is a real crisis. I gotta find a solution. Immediately. I just need to keep calm and focus on the task at hand, which is investigating. Why are you doing this to me? Okay. Let's talk to our people. Miss Pavlova, can I get out? Listen, I'm sorry that we snuck in here without your permission, but get out now. We just need to investigate here to understand. Ugh, it's no use. She's not gonna listen. I need to find someone who will. Well, he's not. He can't do anything. What the? What are you doing up there? Mr. Sholmes? Naturally, I was analyzing what the weight of 20,000 rubles felt like on one's head. Have I not told you that as a detective, it is my business to know what other people do not? It isn't mere tomfoolery, my boy. Oh, no. Well, why were you hanging from the hook? Isn't that obvious? To properly assess the weight of 20,000 rubles, naturally. I wish to determine that if it would bend that conceited-looking hook on the wall so full of brag and bounce. Oh, I never know whether to take this man seriously or not. Ah, you again. The great detective. Ah, Inspector. I confess I've been looking for you. I have something to report to you most urgently. Well, you might try looking for me somewhere other than a hook on the wall next time. What is the report? Speak. An urgent report from a great detective can mean but one thing. Yes. The case of the curious murder that took place last night here on this vessel, the steamship Burya. Is that what SS stands for? Has been solved. By me, naturally. What? Really? Yes. I have eliminated all other possibilities. No other explanations exist. So, allow me to illuminate all your minds. For I am about to reveal my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case. You have solved it? Even Hedgehog understands this case. We all know who was responsible for killing Student Boy this morning when we found criminal in wardrobe. It is this stowaway, and he has handcuffs to prove it. I didn't do it. The trouble is, there doesn't appear to be anyone else who could have killed the victim. Because as everyone knows, the cabin door was bolted shut from the inside. That means the culprit must be someone who is inside the cabin. It's what's called a locked room mystery in detective stories.
Da, locked room, that is point. The room was locked. Well, I can't deny that. There's no way the bolt could have been drawn across from outside the cabin. You're all quite mistaken. The cabin next door is not a so-called locked room at all. What? Oh yes, there's another entrance. An entrance used last night by the culprit in order to gain access to the cabin despite the bolted door. What other entrance? We never discovered one. Why, it gapes open-mouthed at you even as we speak. The ventilator, man. The ventilator? You think this is funny? I cannot put my arm through that hole. Oh, jeez. That's because your arms are as thick as tree trunks. You're suggesting that the culprit entered and left the victim's cabin through that tiny opening? It's not possible. Ah, but it is. And last night, the victim even witnessed the intruder in the act of passing through the ventilator. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean... Are you referring to the words Kazuma-sama wrote in his diary? I can hear a faint whistling. What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. Precisely, my dear madame. But what does it mean? What is this speckled band? The answer to that particular conundrum is in this very cabin. Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? There is a distinct element of danger, but fear not, I am ready. What am I about to expose for you all to see will shock you to your cores. Behold! Snack! Oh my god, it's Sneeve! Sneeve cameo. Allow me to introduce you all to the band. The Speckled Band. A snake? Indubitably. And Mr. Sholmes, just one thing. Pray, what troubles you? Well, that snake isn't really speckled, is it? It's more striped. It's more stripy, wouldn't you say? Hmm? Yes, you're right. I think in this case you'd have to call it a striped band? The striped band, wouldn't you? Mr. Stroganov, are you okay? You both see and observe with distinction, however. Do you not think that is precisely the trap in which the culprit wishes for you to fall? Oh goodness, really? It's a trap? How exactly? I think perhaps it is time I explain the intricacies of my train of thought. Are you ready, Miss Pavlova? I'm sorry for the young man who died, but that is all. His death has nothing to do with me. The whole thing is nothing to do with me. There are two conclusions I have drawn from the facts. Number one, last night, your friend infiltrated the victim's cabin. And number two, that same friend was responsible for the victim losing his life. No. She's turned as white as a bowl of rice again. Sholmes must be right. He hit the nail on the head. This young woman's friend killed Mr. Asogi? Looks like he can't speak with that snake coil around his head. I would advise as little movement as possible, Seaman. You wouldn't want the fangs of that long friend in your neck. So everyone, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Oh boy. Miss Pavlova, moments ago you claimed the following. His death has nothing to do with me. This whole thing has nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what is the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend which you boarded this vessel. Was it not? As I suspected, another telltale glance. Without a doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent we see before us. Oh? And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. Victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. Whereas, regrettably, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we then give, pray? What was this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Oh, but it does. You have the answer to this quandary even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that's what you are trying, but failing to conceal. Can only be the snake's sloughed skin. Evidently, after this subtle and horrible crime, this most deadly friend of yours shed its original skin. No? I don't know what you're talking about. Last night, through the ventilator visible in this cabin, your then speckled friend slithered next door. Using the bell cord on the other side as a bridge, the serpent silently descended into the victim's quarters. In the dim light, it appeared the young gentleman who was about to lose his life as a speckled band. In summary, the nature of this friend of yours, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a rare breed of snake, whose markings change each time it sloughs its skin. A snake so dreadful, you can only imagine it would be found in the deepest depths of India. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life, and why? According to the data of which I've been apprised, it appeared there were no visible signs of injury. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. Now, if we take that as a fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it was at this scene of the crime. Oh no, could there be? Yes, an examination of the deceased's body will prove the cause of death conclusively. The almost but not quite imperceptible puncture of wounds left by venomous fangs will reveal the truth. Yes, the vestiges of a snakebite delivered by your terrifying friend. This makes no sense. There is no point feigning ignorance, Miss Pavlova. After the incident, you endeavored to hide everything, didn't you? But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right, you hid the evidence that links you to the death in that traveling case. When we first met in this cabin, it came to my attention that your case moved periodically. Your serpent assassin was restless inside, no doubt. You don't... It is telling that the victim made note of a low whistling sound that he heard minutes before his end. That was your signal, was it not? A sound you had used to train your serpent friend. To train? Indeed, you'd put the serpent through the ventilator and wait. After a period, you'd summon it back with a whistle. You couldn't know if the animal had done its duty, so you would listen for signs of life next door. If the victim appeared to not have been dispatched, you'd release the snake once more. Do you deny this snake has undergone such training? It's not true. Having slithered through the ventilator and down the bell cord, the creature needed only to sink its fangs in once. And its venom would course through the victim's veins, ending his existence forever. That is the true nature of the speckled band that took the young man's life. There can be no doubt. My logic is infallible. Thus concludes Erlach Sholm's great deduction of the speckled band. Miss Pavlova has trained her pet snake as a killing machine. There on the floor you will observe a saucer of milk. The promise of food is the key to training any creature. Incredible! You've solved the mystery! Amazing! Your great deduction really lives up to its name. I can see now why Herlock Sholmes has become such a household name. My dear man, it was nothing remarkable. As the Russians say, I could have done it with one left hand. Could I venture an opinion, Mr. Sholmes? But of course. What's on your mind? It's just, about your deductions before, some things don't quite make sense to me. I welcome questions as to my method, and will answer both loudly and proudly. Oh, well, good. First of all, snakes are egg-laying creatures, part of the reptile family. You are well informed, madame. And reptiles, don't drink milk. Ah. It's really only mammals that like to drink milk, you see. So, I'm not sure it'd be possible to train a snake using milk as a reward. No matter. No doubt Miss Pavlova used some other treat to encourage her pet to do her bidding. Milk is merely an example. The logic holds. Well, there is something else. Snakes have no ears. They don't have arms either. Yes, so I'm not sure it would really be possible to signal to a snake by whistling. But madame, what are the tales from Arabia? Have you not heard of the snakes that dance to the sounds of a flute? I think perhaps the performers play their music in time with the snake's natural movements. Oh. I see. No hands, no feet, no ears? These creatures are so inept as to be practically useless. Don't take it out on the snakes, Mr. Sholmes. There is one other thing. You have more? Snakes use the scales on their bellies to propel themselves. So, I'm not really sure a snake could manage to climb up a flat bell cord like the ones in these cabins. Then it should try harder! Please, don't be angry with me, Mr. Sholmes. The point is, even if the snake had gone through the ventilator to the next door cabin, it couldn't have come back without help. What I'm trying to say is that there's a number of reasons why it's difficult to imagine the snake could have had a part in this. Look at him, you gave him depression. I think we need to step in and help again, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh no, you don't mean... Yes, we need to modify Mr. Sholmes' latest deductions and turn them into the great ones they ought to be. I had a feeling that was coming. Alright, let's give it a try. Just what I was waiting for, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, right. So, cast your eyes down to your wrists again. What? You've done it again! Your handcuffs are gone! Where did they go? Fear not, I shall see they're restored after our work is done. I really wish you'd leave them off. Now, everyone, let us begin. Erlach Sholmes is proud to present His logic and reasoning spectacular. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Alright. I'm gonna save my voice and try to just read the new stuff. Okay. She does have a pained expression on her face. Yes, that is true. She looks as though Kazuma-sama's death is weighing heavily on her mind. But you're not sure Mr. Sholmes has read her quite correctly, is that it? Could there be some other way to interpret her expression, then? Let's take a moment and really look closely at her. Let's see, we have the paper. Oh! Something clawed at her. Oh, Naruto-san, look. That looks like a very painful wound. Looks like a scratch made by some kind of small animal. And fairly recently, too. Well, whatever scratched her doesn't appear to be around here. I think we have to present.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a snake in the cabin. When you call those horrid events, the claw scratch smarts with pain. In fact, is the snake in part of the people? Damn, no, the snake isn't part of people evidence yet. Exactly. Simple observation reveals that wound is fresh. Miss Pavlova, did you in fact receive that scratch sometime last night? When I think about the young man who died next door, I feel so sad. And when I am sad, the pain from this wound is worse. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. So we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin that poor pretentious night? Naturally, it was the friend which you boarded this vessel, was it not? As I suspected, another telltale glance. That's a snake. But her friend wasn't the snake. Snakes don't have claws, do they? No, they don't. They don't even have hands or feet, which claws may grow. Well then, if that snake isn't her pet, what is? What's the true identity of this friend of hers? We should follow her gaze. That's where we'll find the answer. Is it you? Oh, he's little Meow Meow. Ah, look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. This must be something Miss Pavlova brought with her when she ran away. She's exceptionally beautiful, isn't she? Yes, that's true. But personally, it's a little black creature she's holding. Maybe we better take a closer look at this. Little kitten. Look at the little cat Miss Pavlova is cuddling here. Oh, what a cute little kitten. It could vie with you, couldn't it, Mr. Naruto-san? For the blackest outfit. Black kitten. And from the looks of this picture, at least, Miss Pavlova is very attached to it.
Yes.
Where'd the snake come from? Without a doubt, your friend is the little kitten we see before us. Yes, the scratch on the back of your hand makes that abundantly clear. Oh no. The whereabouts of this black kitten isn't clear. What is clear is that you brought the animal with you when you ran away, didn't you? Girl is playing Warframe. Darka is my best friend. I couldn't leave her behind. Darka would appear to be a Russian blue. And yet, That fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. Whereas, regrettably, that cat is black. The specimen's marking do not fit the description in any way. Yeah, the snake is a paying customer. That's why he was allowed on. What was this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me. It looks like a sock. Do you see that? She just took something out of her pocket and hid it behind her back. You could have just kept it hiding in your pocket. Oh yes, ploys like that are Mr. Sholmes' specialty. He's ever so cleverly forced her to reveal something. I thought deduction was a specialty. Or maybe making believe that was a ploy too. Anyway, I find it hard to believe that the skin of a snake. In which case, just what is she hiding behind her back? Is it a kitty toy? Well, it's speckled. It is a band, but what is it? Seems to be soft and fluffy, long piece of cloth of sort. It looks like a handle at the end. I think it may be a cat's toy. This sort is very common in the West, apparently. How is that a toy for cats? Cats like to chase the band around and paw at it. Kittens in particular love that sort of play. You only need to wave it in front of them, and they pounce to catch it. That sounds positively adorable. I like snake. Snake. Snake.
Yes.
Yes. The thing you are trying but failing to conceal is, a cat's toy. Precisely, and the true neighbor of the now infamous speckled band. And it was this toy that you dangled through the ventilator. You waved it around, I presume. Naturally, the victim could not fail to notice it. But why? For what reason? My dear boy, there can be only one answer to that. After her feline friend disappeared through the ventilator into the neighboring cabin, Miss Pavlova attempted to use the speckled cat's toy to incite the creature to return. Ah. In summary, the nature of this friend of Miss Pavlova's, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a blithesome Russian blue breed of cat by the name of Darka. A truly troublesome feline young Darka is proving to be. She must be caged once found. You'll forgive us for borrowing the photograph of your pet, Miss Pavlova. It was after I gave her food last night. That's when it happened. She scratched the back of my hand and then ran up the bell cord. Before I could do anything, she had disappeared through the ventilator. Darka. She is so naughty. You beloved kitten. Nya. Well, obviously, the cat didn't kill him. Come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. There were no visible signs of injury. Cats aren't venomous. There were no signs of a wound, but he seems to be unaware of one important detail. He wasn't poisoned. It would seem so, Let's give him the information he's missing now.
Yes.
In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by the post-mortem report. Ah, yes, I knew it was one or the other. His neck was... Indeed, the breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that. Sergeant Stroganoff, or Seaman Stroganoff, and some immortal freak, you know. The jury is out. Anyways, we have authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now, if we take that as fact... Recently imagine that means evidence that remains to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Kazuma died because his neck was broken. In other words, he was probably struck by something, or someone. It's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon has been found, though. Presumably, Darkut didn't silently creep up behind him and deal him a fatal blow. I suppose it's possible he had a fall and hit the ground awkwardly. Could have been a terrible act of misfortune that he broke his neck completely by accident. Oh yes, a bad fall could explain it. It's rather hard to believe of Kazuma-sama, though. He wasn't a clumsy man. We need to fix this deduction somehow. Is there anything from the scene that could explain what happened? I mean, I'm wondering if he was hit with this.
Yes.
Examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. Particular mark, so prominently visible next to the victim body, is a deposit of shoe polish. Shoe polish? Indeed, positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I now carry as a matter of course. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results, the undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the color of the polish is a perfect match to the color of Mr. Asogi's laced leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it's not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asogi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped. Please, no. And, by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against some immovable object as he fell to the floor. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant, he lost his life. I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asogi lost his life? Yes, the facts are as clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence. But now your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right. It was not in the case. Because that's where the cat was. Kazuma simply tripped over and now he's no more? Can't be true. I refuse to accept it. I know it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does suggest that's what happened. But, and if this part of Mr. Sholmes' deduction is right, Miss Pavlova is trying to hide some evidence that would prove it. Here in this cabin. Somewhere in the direction that she just cast her eyes. Where, I wonder? Let's have a good look around. The answer must be around here somewhere. Is it in the trash? This is a waste paper basket. Perhaps all the first-class cabins have them. We only just started occupying this cabin late last night. Presumably there's not much rubbish in there yet. Oh my god, that's the bell! It wasn't a teacup, it was the cat's bell. It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it? And I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. If it looks familiar, perhaps it's more than your mind simply playing tricks on you.
Yes.
That's right. You had the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that waste paper basket. Here we have a fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has a familiar air, in fact. Precisely. We found another piece of broken glass on the floor in Mr. Asogi's cabin. And as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly. So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why would it be that part of this glass object, which was evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death, should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin? You're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not? I don't know. And that hushed Russian accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell in question. Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. The evidence linking Miss Pavlova and the little glass bell, that would be...
Yes!
If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see it makes me laugh. Hanging from Darka's collar. The very glass bell in question. The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly auspicious fall. And the cause of that fateful stumble? Your absent feline friend, Darka. I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry. Death by tripping over a cat. Oh, poor bastard. So that means we're innocent. Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands. People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. She was so fast. She disappeared through the... What about the snake? Can we take care of this snake? I'm very concerned about this literal snake in the room. And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it. Yes. And I had read the, rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me. Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really. So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping. So at that point, you thought it safe to try and lure the kitten back in again? By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator into the adjoining cabin. Darka always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. So the faint whistling sound Kazuma wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened. Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then... I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out, and then... Oh, such a dreadful bang. Then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent. Kazuma was... From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. The SS Buria is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, the combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards? In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator. Yet Darka is nowhere to be seen. I must have forgotten to lock my case, and now she's disappeared again. Gracious, that cat is insufferably Hold on. Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows something about himself, at least. When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died, but I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right, where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it? And where did it come from? Oh. What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board this ship? Oh, I didn't say? Snake is my friend. His name is Pierozoko. Proshko? That snake belongs to you? He escaped from Gage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him here. Yes, how did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board. Right, the snake is an employee. Ha, we are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without a close friend? Without someone who understands? Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better? But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake? Surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom. Brosko does not have venom. He is harmless, very long, but very gentle. He is adorable, like Rani. It's venomless? Yes. Now he is hungry, so he is in a bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile. And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose? Ha! Like they say, milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Proshko eats mouses. Big, fat, round mouses. Oh, so is that what the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for? Oh! How else can I catch my friend's favorite food? Nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. Yep. Oh, he's sad. It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It can't climb up a bell cord, and it's not even venomous. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role? It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. My Prosko has nothing to do with this incident. So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. Yeah, I was wondering about the tan line. I thought it was like... I mean, yeah, I guess that does explain it. Like, I noticed it was striped. It reminded me of, like, you know, prison stripes. Miss Pavlova. I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But what are you talking about, Miss Mikotoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events. An accident. I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it. Sholmes, are you okay, sweetie? I confess, I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. Oh. I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. What? Especially as they're on your wrists as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were, Mr. Holmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. The truth about how you really died. About how that scene in your cabin really came to be. Alright, I'll see what I can do. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Yes! Oh, we should ponder first. Is the victim who lost his life in the cabin that was bolted shut from the inside? Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must first establish. What we must establish in the first instance. But we've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed over his cabin. Tragic, yes, but still an accident. Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm gonna have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right here in Kazuma's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no mere accident. So, something here is written in blood. We're told it says wardrobe, but it's in Russian.
Yes!
The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. Take a look at it, if you will. There's no way that Mr. Isogi could have left this message on the floor. That script, it's Russian, isn't it? Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language. Japanese, in this case. But maybe he was studying Russian. It's a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast. It doesn't seem likely. It's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry? What do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There's no way that Mr. Isogi could have left this message on the floor. And the reason why, clearly explained here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. Instant death. Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't have possibly written anything, because he was already dead. It's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asogi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't have been there, if what Miss Pavlova told us was true. What? So Susanna-san has noticed it too, then. Something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. The name is written in ink. In the cabin, you can see that there's an inkwell that's fallen over. The problem is, I don't know where to go from here. Like, is it just this with the glass? Yurikawa sounds like an Ace Attorney name. Hi, I'm Miss Milky Yurikawa. Yeah.
Yes.
This piece of gross Milky, your cow. This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. But that glass bell the kitten had. That's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know all about that. It's broken in half when the victim tripped over it and fell. So we clearly have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in the logic? Unfortunately, there's a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. That's really what happened. Then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Remember that we found the other half of the glass in that waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence point clearly to the same conclusion. That when Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth, in order to cover up his or her own guilt. There is someone else present in Mr. Asogi's. You're wasting time. Someone else was there? Da, of course, we know this.
What are you talking about?
Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out.
Oh, yes.
And only other person in cabin when young student died was you.
Yes.
It's true. I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. Thank you, wardrobe. Thank you. Thank you, Shrubs. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I could have left that message. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor, in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence would show how Mr. Asogi really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would have barely have cast any light onto the floor there. Little wonder, then, that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? Seaman Stroganov. Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join the ballet company. But before, she was dancer on this ship, a member of the ship's band. You do not accuse Ship's Angel of being criminal. Ah, so that's it. You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth. Well, this is all most interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure? You are a great detective. You should know. Look truth in eyes. Cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. No one could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or do you want to tell me that the killer can walk through locked doors? Yet, it is impossible. Ugh, he's right. But wait, I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around door latches. Yeah, we tried explaining this earlier. Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors. Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel, not a gap in sight. No threads, or needles, or magnets could have been used. No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so... Susadas, come on! Rude. So Seaman Stroganov has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily. I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means? Yes, and so should you, because we've seen it happen. Indeed we have. You weren't in the room! Or were you? Were you in the room?
Yes.
Look at the bookcase there. See all the books and things on it have toppled over? That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that is right. It's a very powerful vessel after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, a violent jolt goes through the entire ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over. I believe, yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia, acting on the objects. Is there nothing Susada-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in the cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. It's very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... It sounds like... Inspector Hasanaga. Oh yes! That's it! When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the first of ineptia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Sogi was killed? The SS Buria made another emergency stop. When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? That's when we came into the cabin. We were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like Mr. Isogi's cabin. Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova? Are you out of your mind? You say Burya made an emergency stop? It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room? Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside? Used to trigger the emergency alarm? Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you only to press the button in times of emergency. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone, hence the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. Wait, it was you? When the button is... Sholmes! When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interests of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings, and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. You pressed the button? I wanted to press the button. Mr. Sholmes. As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. He sounds almost proud of himself. How dare you mess with ship? I'll report you to Captain. You are in much trouble now. Now, I'm sure that all can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact we have now learnt a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin doors slide closed. So, what we must now consider... It all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Isogi, did the ship make an emergency stop, or did it not? You're idiots! Burya is a huge ship with many passengers. If we make an emergency stop, even in middle of night, there would be chaos everywhere.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo?
Well, it's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea. Do show us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped his vessel? The fact, nothing was reported. Seaman Stroganov, it's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, is that right? Da, that is correct. Why? In the ship's log here, this would be where you record the details of your duties? What are you doing with that? That is mine. Ah, you rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later. I left it there on purpose. That is where I put it, always. The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances, you write the phrase, "nothing to report," every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. That is... because nothing happened. But if nothing happened, you would normally write, "nothing to report," wouldn't you? Indeed so. Which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Burya. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop? Stop talking rubbish. If I'm perfectly honest, I find it a little hard to believe myself. Oh? Why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. But we were all drugged. The ship lurched so violently and the alarm bell was so loud. Can't imagine that anyone would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night. Well, no. That's a good point. What of the throbbing? Sorry? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it. Oh, yes. I have had a headache. You're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right. My head's been throbbing today, too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. Can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. And then the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. I had already been dragged out of the wardrobe and had those handcuffs put on me. So, Stroganoff... I love that it's his name. Stroganoff did mention that Nina used to be the ship's dancer. So she was very well beloved around the ship. Why didn't I wake up when all that was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruto. You boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, it must have been the food, because Ryunosuke mentioned that he ate Kazuma's dinner because Kazuma didn't like chicken. Stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Ah, well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes, in fact, I had all of that. Kazuma wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right, you didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. Is that really true? The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific.
Soporific.
Soporific. To induce a deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug? Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of the passengers on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible, unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What? Mr. Sholmes? Well, seaman? Yeah? I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew, and the captain himself, would be hauled over to the coals for aiding and abetting a renegade. Oh, shit! Please, no more. I will tell everything. Eh? I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes. So when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. We all agreed to help, everyone together. She threw away everything, her fame in the ballet, Mother Esha. We wanted to help our angel. I don't believe it. You are right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night. Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. Da, you could not make all drug. How do you say, dissolve? Talk about heavy seasoning. At midnight, in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by Conrad on shore with small fishing boat, while all the passengers of the SS Buria slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion in their evening meals had contained. So if that's what happened, and the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who dislike chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Cosmo's cabin door. But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case, and it would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Ah, of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, after which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyways, so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. You have talked a long time and said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life that night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night. But... I don't know any of this. I'm just a little girl. You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we see with our eyes. A laudable trait. What? I'm quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruto. Ah! Oh, yes? Do you hear it? The accusatory cry of guilt on the wind? What accusatory cry of guilt? Sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No. You must hear it with your eyes. For observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular. To expose the truth. Alright. I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick. I'm also gonna get a drink. Because I am out of drink and my throat is starting to get fucked. Take a small break and we'll meet back up. We're back. I should add some more swans to this showcase. Don't know if I got too many more Sage for Work ones, though. No. Yeah, not really. I got 1, 2. Yeah. I mean, Sholmes, now that he's managed to get out of his hangover, seems quite competent. There you go, Tucker. Mr. Naruhodo, your assistance, if you please. With what exactly, Mr. Sholmes? With observation, my dear fellow. Just as I said, of these two
Prevaricator.
Yeah. Of these two prevaricators. Observation? If you remember, Mr. Naruto, we know that somebody tried to fabricate evidence, don't we? By tampering with the scene of Mr. Asogi's death. What we're looking for is some trace of evidence that one of these two was there when it happened. Precisely. You are delightfully quick to grasp my meaning. Alright, I'll see what I can see. So we're looking for a trace of evidence that shows someone else was in there last night when Kazuma died. I have similar stains. Yes! I'm not elaborating on that. You know what I mean. Except mine are usually located in the front. Seaman Stroganov. You seem to have quite a large purple stain on the back of your white uniform there. Yeah? Ah, yes. I don't know where the dirt comes from. So nothing in particular comes to mind about the stain? What are you trying to say? It would appear that the significance of the stain has escaped your attention, Seaman. Allow us to make it plain. It's a very large purple stain on the back of Seaman Stroganov's uniform. And I think what made it is clear. Indeed it is. So, Mr. Naruto, present the evidence that proves it. My pleasure. Alright then, the evidence that proves the stain it really is. We don't have something with the actual inkwell, so it has to just be... Yes! It's this photograph, and the ink it shows. That's what caused the stain on your uniform. Ink? A rather unusual color of ink. Purple. Ah! Ah, the penny drops. At last. Now you see the significance. The Russian word on the floor next to the victim's body is written in purple ink. And the stain on the back of the uniform is ink of the exact same color. If the ink had been dry, it couldn't have possibly have been stained to your... Couldn't... Ew, Isabel, don't... Use a clean napkin to wipe off the top of your can. If the ink had been dry, it couldn't possibly have stained your uniform in that way. Which means... you must have been present in the cabin the moment immediately after the ink was spilt. Alright. Yes. It was me. I did it. Everything. I arranged everything in Dead Student's cabin to make it look like a wardrobe man did it. Then I pressed button to make Birdyard do emergency stop, then both cabin doors shut. I did everything so no one would suspect our angel.
Biff, please.
Don't worry, Angel. Let me do the talking. It was after 1 in the morning. I was on duty, patrolling passageway. Then our angel came to me. She was white like sheet.
Biff, please, you must help me.
I went with her. The door to the cabin number 1 was open. When I looked inside, I saw Student Boy on floor. What happened here?
Please, don't tell anyone. My little one, my little furry friend.
Everything that happened in the cabin is like Angel told you. The kitten escaped through the ventilator into Mr. Asugi's cabin, then he tripped over it and broke his neck when he fell to the floor. Yes, that is right. I don't know about that. So after the incident when the cat ran away, Miss Pavlova then visited the cabin next to hers, only to find its occupant lying lifeless on the floor. She said she was worried when she heard the sound of something fall into the floor. That's when she went to look. No, Angel? The door was not locked. So she opened to look, and you already know what happened after. There's just one more thing, if you wouldn't mind. What? When you went to Mr. Asogi's cabin, Miss Pavlova, was he already dead? Why? I already told you. When Nina opened door to student's cabin and looked inside, I was asking Miss Pavlova. Well, Miss Pavlova? Yes, that is right. I saw him. It was dark, and he was wearing black, but he was on the floor, not moving. I was scared. I understand, and I believe you. So is that finally it now? Have we discovered the real truth about Kazuma's death at last? Ah, something nearly slipped my mind. Oh, Mr. Sholmes? This photograph. Yes, I took this myself, you know. The cause of death was a broken neck. Therefore, the victim died instantly. In the unfortunate incident that precipitated these events, a kitten, of which the victim stumbled. However, if those are the facts, there is one particular area in this photograph that seems to be somewhat unnatural. What do you mean, unnatural? What are your thoughts on the matter, Mr. Naruto? If he fell and broke his neck, wouldn't he have to have fallen on his back?
Yes.
Nope. Sorry. I think it's playing what Mr. Sholmes mean by unnatural. Is it? Yeah, it's the word. Okay, fine. Oh. Another point. Imagine, if you will, losing your footing yourself. Would you land as the victim has? What of your hands? Oh, so it's not... He's... His fist was clenched. Alright, if he really fell due to an unfortunate accident, then his fist just doesn't seem quite right. The exact same thought occurred to me. In a fall, one's instinct is to open the palms flat. Yet here we see the victim with his left hand tightly balled into a fist. Almost, you might say, as though he were gripping something. What do you mean? Simply that I took the liberty of investigating the victim's fist a short while ago. You did? And what, pray, do you imagine I found there, my dear fellow? Mr. Sholmes. Show us, please. I'm sorry, Tucker. Why, of course, my dear madame. Would I keep you in suspense? Yes. Yes, you would. This is what I found. Oh, a crescent moon with a little gemstone in the middle? Yes, you're right. A crescent moon. It's very pretty, but what does it tell us? It tells us nothing. I'm not so sure. That crescent moon looks familiar somehow. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere. Observation, Mr. Naruto. That is the key. What? The truth is now tantalizingly close. How did that crescent moon come to be in Cosmo's clenched fist? This is the final clue, the last piece of the puzzle. Ask yourself, what does this little crescent moon mean? What significance has it? And observe, find the answer with your own eyes. She's missing one of her earrings.
Yes!
It's Pavlova, on your ear there. I see you have a crescent moon as well. What? And on your other ear, there seems to be a crescent moon missing. The little ink link holding it on must have broken, I suppose. Now, the missing crescent moon was found in the victim's clenched fist. Clearly, there's only one logical conclusion. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruto? Yes. Miss Pavlova, Mr. Asogi must have grasped that crescent moon and pulled it from your ear, perhaps just moments before he fell to the floor. In other words, last night in Mr. Asogi's cabin, you witnessed the moment when the victim fell with your own eyes. In fact, you were quite literally at arm's length from him. But then the question is, why did he do that? Why did he pull your earring from your ear and hold it in his clenched fist during his final moments? No. Angel? No one can protect you now. Please, Miss Pavlova, tell us the truth. Last night, what did you do to Kazuma? When I think about everything that happened yesterday, it was too much. Running away, the fishing boat in the middle of the night, trying to climb into this huge ship. And then, when I was at last in this cabin, I could relax after this horrible, long day. I couldn't believe it when she disappeared through the ventilator. I tried to call her with a little whistle. I tried waving her favorite toy, but nothing worked. Darka would not come back. What are you doing here at this time of night, Inspector? Oh. I'm sorry. I thought it was a friend of mine. The young man from your country. He was very polite and kind. He helped me to find Darka, and he promised not to tell anyone. But then, when I had my friend in my arms again, I was going to leave the man's cabin. Just a moment. Sorry, but... Oh, yes? I'm sure I know your face. I've seen you somewhere before. Ah. Of course. You're Nikola Pavlova, aren't you? The Russian ballerina. Huh? No, I don't know that name. My heart nearly stopped when he said that. He knew who I was. How could this man from a land in the faraway east know a Russian ballerina? Yes, I saw your performance in Japan. The beauty of the ballet made a deep impression on me. But what are you doing on this ship? I'm sure I read that your ballet company was performing in Shanghai at the moment. I can't fool him. I have to tell him the truth, and hope he doesn't tell anyone. I have no other choice. I see. So you've run away. Please keep my secret. Don't tell anyone. Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here. He's going to pull that cord. He's going to tell the captain. Why did I think I could trust him? Then it happened. Everything at once. It was only a second, but it felt like forever. Wait, I shouted, and then... Darka jumped out of my arms, and down to the young man's feet. And... as he turned around to look at me, I pushed him. I don't even know why. I don't know why I did it. I was just so scared. And I had to stop him from telling anyone about me. And that's when you went to fetch help? From Seaman Stroganov, who was on duty out in the passageway. I heard Nina cry out and thought on the floor, so I ran to her. She was standing at cabin door, shaking like leaf. She looked at me and said, "Help me, Biff. If they find out, I'll be... Please, I have nowhere to go." So you decided to help. And that's when you arranged things in Cosmo's cabin to make it look like I did it. So that no one would suspect the passenger in the cabin next door. Yes. I went to the cabin and looked around to make sure there were nothing to show Nina was there. And then I found Stowaway, in wardrobe, still sleeping. Right. That's when he found me. So you worked out a plan to lay the blame on the Stowaway. I closed wardrobe doors and put back on Strange Papers sign. Luckily for me, that's the only reason Susana-san started to believe me when I said I was innocent. I dragged young man's body to good place and used ink that was spilling to write on floor. I wrote Bapirov, so that person who found him would look inside wardrobe and find Stowaway. And tell me, what of the glass bell? It was by my feet, so I picked it up. I see. But it was dark in the cabin. I didn't notice the other half. And then Angel went back to cabin, and I finished job. By pressing the emergency alarm button in the passageway? Yes. Accordingly, the SS Beria did indeed come to an emergency halt a little after 2 a.m., thus inciting the bolt on the cabin door to slide shut, creating the locked room mystery. There's still one thing I don't understand. You said that you told Kazum about the fact you'd run away from your homeland, and it's because you were worried he was going to tell the captain that you pushed him. Isn't that right? But even if he had pulled the bell cord and called for the captain of the ship, aren't you friends with every member of the crew? Why would that have been a problem? It was what he said first that made me scared. What he said first? Inspector. He said an inspector was his friend. Yes, meaning me, who was supposed to be acting as his bodyguard. I thought that if the police knew about me, they would arrest me. So before he could pull the bell cord, May I stop you a moment, please, Miss Pavlova? It just doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, was Mr. Sogi really going to pull the bell cord? I don't know. But what do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I'm not Kazuma, so I can't know for certain, but he was a man of his word. If he told you he wouldn't give your secret away, then he wouldn't have done. No, he was walking over to it. He was going to pull the cord. He was going to make them send me back. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, the day's work is not yet done, it seems. There's one more deduction to make. What action was the victim really about to take at the moment? Can we determine whither the young man's gaze was directed? First, consider the victim's location within his cabin. That's easy. I remember every detail of that room. I mean, yes, I spent a lot of time in that wardrobe, but still, the cabin has been my home for this entire voyage. Yeah. I mean, it puts a bow on everything. He was going to share his secret, so she'd feel safer with hers. Are you ready then? Yes. If there's one thing I've learned today, it's that a simple gaze can reveal all manner of truths. And not only that, in order to draw the right conclusion, you can't afford to be up by even a little bit when you're following the gaze to where it lands. So, when he turned away from Miss Pavlova, what exactly was he looking at?
Take that!
Considering everything that had happened last night, certainly it may have looked as though Kazuma was going to ring the bell cord. Yes, however, what is directly beside the bell cord? The wardrobe. The wardrobe? And more importantly, what was inside the wardrobe? The man's great friend, sleeping soundly. Miss Pavlova, please, think back very carefully. What were Mr. Asogi's exact words last night? Give me a moment. I could use another opinion here. Yes, but not from a member of the crew. No, Mr. Asogi intended to consult his close friend on the matter. To see if between them they might be able to help in some way, no doubt. Oh no. Sadly, we can't know the truth for certain now. It's too late for that. But I wish you had made sure of what Mr. Asogi was looking at. Things may have ended very differently if you had. Miss Pavlova, I want to thank you for finally admitting the truth. But, unfortunately, the truth is, a man lost his life because of what you did. And that will never change. I hope you'll never forget that. I'm sorry. Really, I'm so sorry. What have I done? God, I feel bad. And so, at long last, The mystery surrounding the tragic accident on the SS Buria was finally laid to rest. I feel so fucking bad. What will happen to Miss Pavlova now, then? Once we reach Great Britain, she'll be handed over to the British police at Scotland Yard. What about the fact she ran away from Russia? Won't the Russians try to repatriate her? Apparently, the English detective can speak to the immigration office and sort all that out. Mr. Sholmes can do that? So she won't be going back to Russia, then? No, I don't think so. Even if she wanted to return in the future, I doubt she would be able to. She ran away, so now she's in exile for life. I see. I'm sorry. Seaman Stroganoff? I wanted to help our angel, no matter what. But I didn't think about you, about how you lost a good friend. I will go with Nina. I will give myself the British police. That's kind of you. In the meantime, thank you for letting me go free again. Cosmo's death feels like such a waste, but... well, do what you can for Miss Pavlova, won't you? Duh. Well, I'm afraid you need to pack now. We're due to arrive in Hong Kong tomorrow. As much as it pains me, I'm going to have to hand you over to the consul to arrange your passage back to Japan. Yes. I did stow away, after all. Couldn't really expect any different. So, you should get back to your cabin now. Looks like my study tour to Great Britain is over before it even begun, then. To think that only days ago, Cosmo and I were laughing together about how we'd tear up the streets of London. It seems like a distant memory now. Oh, what's that? Is it someone weeping? Susato-san? Naruto-san, I didn't know you had returned. Well, I haven't been back long. Inspector Hasanaga just told me I should pack, you know, ready to leave the ship tomorrow and all that. I still can't believe this has happened. I can't believe someone's life could be over just like that. Susato-san. He had such grand ideas for this visit to Great Britain. So many dreams. And now they've been cruelly taken away. Just as he has. I thought I could never forgive the person responsible. But now we know the truth. That it was just an accident. Just a silly series of mishaps. It's too much, Naruto-san. It's just too much. Yes, I know. I wish there was something I could say. Inspector, my duty was to see Asogi-san safely to Great Britain, but I failed, and caused his two closest friends great pain and suffering as a result. I've let everyone down, and I will do anything to make up for my terrible blunder. Nobody blames you, Inspector. And I'm free again now, at least. What? Fuck you, Sholmes. What's the meaning of this? Oh, a trifling matter. Simply then in my head, I think I shall always picture you wearing those shackles. Without them, the balance seems all wrong. It's distracting. Sorry? So I decided to restore them, for old time's sake, shall we say. You are a stowaway, after all. I'm gonna beat you. He thinks this is funny? Mr. Sholmes. We do appreciate all your assistance. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Not at all, not at all. And though it's a little late, may I offer my sincere condolences. The loss of your companion is truly heartrending. I hope that you'll be able to fulfill some of his aspirations in his honor. I'm afraid that won't be possible. We shall be disembarking at the next port, in Hong Kong. We have to return to Japan and make a full report about everything that's happened. What? Wait a minute. It's just me that has to go back, isn't it? I mean, I was the stowaway. The terms of this study tour were negotiated by the Department of Justice in both Great Britain and Japan. It was to be 1 lawyer and 1 assistant. Was to be? In light of Mr. Asogi's unfortunate death, I'm afraid the study tour could no longer go ahead. Oh no. I don't care for me, but... Poor Susato-san. My dear fellows, the majority of problems have an extremely simple solution, you know. All you require is 1 lawyer, and the study tour can continue, surely. But there is no one else with the necessary qualifications, Mr. Sholmes. We know of no other lawyer. Qualifications, you say? Any qualifications obtained in your own country will be of little value in Great Britain, I'm afraid. Oh, but anyway, the voyage to London still promises a good month of time. Ample opportunity, I would say, to find yourselves another suitable lawyer. Miss Susato? Yes? Do you think perhaps I might be able to do it? Huh? But you're not a lawyer, Mr. Naruto. Oh, unless... Are you studying law? No, I'm not, but... I'm sorry. In that case, I don't think there's even a chance it could work. But as I said, there's still more than a month before we reach England's shores. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruto? Yes, I have a month in which to study, to learn what I must to become a lawyer in Great Britain. Mr. Naruto, that's ridiculous. Are you seriously suggesting anyone could learn all that in just 40 days? There's only one way to find out. I would work my fingers to the bone, Inspector, every single day. Will you let me try? And if, by the time you reach Great Britain, I haven't learned enough to be recognized as a lawyer, I'll take whatever punishment is deemed appropriate. But why put yourself in such a difficult position? For Kazuma, he said that there was something he had to do in Great Britain, and that he would sacrifice anything to make it happen. He was passionate about it. I can't let all that pass and just come to nothing. And anyway, it's for my own benefit too. I will become a lawyer. I have to. What do you say, Miss Susato? I think it's a wonderful idea. Thank you. So, what does our bespectacled inspector friend say? Are you serious? 1 lawyer and 1 assistant. The numbers are indisputable. No, 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 it's madness. Yet fascinating, wouldn't you agree? Fascinating? Duty and rules are the dull routine of existence that we all abhor. Give us interest. Give us fascination. Speak for yourself. Besides, qualifications are no measure of a man. What matters is his character, no? And you've witnessed ample evidence of this man's exemplary character today with your own eyes, from the early hours of this morning until this very moment now. Despite contending with the passing of his close companion, and despite the accusation of guilt, this man has shown resourcefulness, intelligence, and above all, courage. Very well. I'll think of a clever way to word my report to the Department of Justice. Inspector, after all, I did just make a promise, didn't I? I said that I'd do anything at all to make it up for my shortcomings here. Oh, thank you, Inspector. If you'll excuse me, I must pay a visit to the captain's quarters, I think. I need to discuss what to do next and how to best make my report. Are you really prepared to attempt this, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, I'm gonna try. I wonder, would you consider teaching me what I need to know? Everything about being a lawyer? I'd be delighted to help you. I am a judicial assistant, after all. Thank you. And, Mr. Naruhodo, I'd like you to take charge of this. Me? Are you sure? I'm sure it's what Kazuma-sama would have wanted. Its name is Kuruma. It's a great sword. It's been in the Asogi clan for generations. Very well. I accept. I'll treasure it always. So then, Miss Susato. It seems we'll be working together for some time to come yet. It'll be an honor, Mr. Naruhodo. And for the next 40 days, I shan't grant you a single minute of freedom. We shall fill every spare moment with study. Yes, that's exactly what I need. But, before we begin, I have an earnest favor to ask of you two. Goodness. What is it? Please throw me to the ground. 3 times. What? I should never have doubted you. You were Kazuma-sama's closest friend. Of course you would never have done anything to hurt him. It should have been obvious to me from the start. But I allowed suspicion to get the better of me. And no matter how upset I was feeling, it was completely unforgivable behavior. No, you were in shock. You just found out about me stowing away, and the cabin door was locked from the... No, I won't let you make excuses for me. Whatever the circumstances, I should never have thrown you. And not just once, but 5 times. That number keeps creeping up, doesn't it? Please, you must. Just take hold of me and throw it. Do it. Don't even think about it. No, I don't even know how. I've never thrown anyone in my life. Very wise, Mr. Naruhodo. It isn't a skill one acquires without considerable training. Oh, Mr. Sholmes. I observed her throwing technique several times with great interest. I confessed I was most impressed. Sholmes, do not throw her! I presume that would be a form of Japanese wrestling? Oh, well, in a way. It's not wrestling, but my own interpretation of ancient jujitsu technique. Apparently it's called the Susato takedown. It leaves your head swimming, believe me. How beguiling. I am a practitioner of the combative arts myself, and I am a somewhat accomplished boxer. Don't punch her! There he goes, dancing around again. Discombobulate! 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 I wonder if you'd be so kind as to instruct me as to the technique of your arresting throw. Yes! I'd be honored! Then let us not dally. Demonstrate, my dear madame. Oh, of course. No. Are you ready, Mr. Naruhodo? Sorry? As you can see, you throw from the abdomen. Oh yes, arresting indeed. And that's what you term the Susato takedown, is it? Actually, no. That was a Susato squash. I have a concussion. My groggy state of consciousness. A scene from an evening recently spent with Kazuma flickered into my own mind. Kuruma? That's right. It's a prized sword that's been passed down through generations of the Asogi clan. Can't believe you managed to get permission to bring it with you. I mean, taking Katana on a study tour is more than a little irregular, surely. Japanese man's sword is his soul, Ryunosuke. It cannot be parted from my katana. Kuruma guides me. I truly believe that. So its name compels the wielder to slice evil in two? Not that you would need much compelling. On that subject, there's something very important that I have to do in Great Britain. And I'll sacrifice anything to make it happen. I'd appreciate you seeing it through with me. Of course, I will. Whatever it is, I'll see it through to the end with you. I knew you wouldn't let me down. That important thing he had to do. I still don't know what it was. I do enjoy that it has his headband wrapped around the sheath of the katana now. I'm gonna see the place for myself and work it out. Great Britain's capital, London. I mean, he was also in the first case, so it did have a lot of, like, moments for him in there. Runaway room. Alright, there's 5 episodes. In this second escapade, it transpires that another crime was committed aboard the SS Burya. The stakes are high as Sholmes and Stroganov pursue the culprit, but there's more to the crime than meets the eye. So they, like, 6 hours before the murder. It's almost 2 weeks now since we left Japan. Can't believe how quickly time has gone. So, our next port of call will be Shanghai. Who's there? A detective. A detective? Who? A great detective. I don't get it. What's a great detective? If you would just be so kind as to open the door. Oh yes, sorry, of course. I can show you the costumes later, or after this. Is something wrong, detective? Are you investigating a case? Wherever a great detective goes, great cases occur. Indeed, I am the root of all evil. Sorry? Then I don't think I want you in my cabin. Under our very noses on the steamship, a terrible theft has just occurred. What? You noticed, I presume, the brief power failure a short while ago? Oh yes, the power couldn't have been out for more than 10 minutes, though. Indeed, yet that was ample time for this wicked crime to be perpetrated. I see. Well, clearly it's a case that needs investigating. Precisely. The culprit ran away in this direction, down the first-class cabin passageway here. Really? The thief came this way? I'm quite sure of it. It might have escaped the attention of the dim-witted crew, but not of the great detective. To that end, I'd be obliged if you allow me to investigate here in this cabin. Well... How curious. Is there some reason why it would inconvenience you to have your cabin searched? Inconvenience me? Well, I'd be lying if I said no. After all, there's a stowaway in that wardrobe right over there. Don't look! Just me in here, as you can see. No one else. So you might perhaps want to focus your attention on one of the other first-class cabins. As it happens, you are the only first-class passenger at present. The other cabins are vacant. Oh! Did that rather tragic rumbling of the stomach arise from within you, my good fellow? Of course. As I said, I'm the only person in here. It's not long until dinner time now, so perhaps we could do this afterwards? I do apologize, sir, but it is of first importance that the investigation is not delayed. Now, if you'll excuse me... Wait, where did he go? How did he suddenly move all the way over there? Yes, without a doubt. If the culprit were to be hiding in this cabin, it would have to be inside this wardrobe. I shall need to examine this wardrobe thoroughly. I presume you have no objection? I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to decline. Really, you won't find any. Choo! Choo! Did those two rather tragic sneezes arise from your good self? Of course they did. As I said, I'm the only person in here. You have a curious knack of talking while sneezing, then? Twice, no less. This is gonna be a tough one to argue. I was watching you quite intently, sir, and I assure you I saw no signs of a sneeze. Couldn't Ryunosuke have held his nose? As I was saying, well, I shall need to examine this wardrobe. I've had it now, then. The game's up. Nobody hiding in there, it seems. What? What? You seem surprised. No, not at all. Yes, I am! He was in there, for sure. I shut the doors on him myself. More visitors? Who's this now? Excusing me. Oh, Seaman Stroganoff. Sorry for disturbing, but crime has been committed on board ship. Yes, I heard. Terrible theft, apparently. How do you know this? Well, the detective here just informed me, you see. Detective? Yes, I assumed you must have asked him to investigate. Detective, could you... Where did he go? I must ask you to cooperate with investigation into this crime. Fully. He's glaring at the wardrobe already. Is Sholmes in the wardrobe? Well done, you found me. What are you doing hiding in my wardrobe? My good man, I was merely assessing the practicality of concealment in such a place. And I would say that, at a push, a human could survive up to 5 minutes in that cramped space. Ryunosuke's been in there for a fortnight. Is he not human? Who are you? Shh. This is the moment of truth. The great detective is about to unveil the sordid details of this wretched crime. You mean to say... Yes, there can be no doubt that the culprit of this terrible theft did indeed conceal himself within this wardrobe. What? But that's impossible. He couldn't have done. Because my best friend was in there the entire time. Or at least, I thought he was. How can you be so sure of this? Elementary, my dear fellow. The criminal left behind the most revealing evidence. How else could you explain these 3 bones? Ah! What the? He's right. Look at those gnawed bones in there. And 3 of them. The criminal has escaped this time, but I will find him and crush him. Could I ask you something, Detective? Why, yes, of course. I'm always delighted to answer an inquiring mind. In this terrible theft, what exactly was stolen? Ah, what else? But some steaks on the rib bone. Huh? Did you say steaks on the rib bone? For this evening's dinner, 3 rib steaks were stolen from ship's kitchen only a short time ago. There was malfunction with generator and ship was without lights for 10 minutes. Chef who saw criminal said he ran down this way from first-class passageway. And now I am on his tail. I'm afraid to say, dear fellow, that your man is no longer in this cabin. But how? Through the cabin door, no less. Having devoured his haul in this wardrobe, the culprit discarded the bones and concealed himself behind the cabin door as he came inside. And then, when attention was turned to the wardrobe, he seized his chance to escape through the open door. Make haste, my good man, after the culprit. I shall follow presently. Something troubles you, sir. I think maybe criminal is not running away at all. What are you suggesting? I know where the dog is buried, Mr. Asogi. Me? Da, when I think that you are culprit, everything is falling in places. The criminal that disappeared in first-class passageway, the bones in the wardrobe, all clues are pointing their fingers at you. Don't be ridiculous. I would never... Yes, of course. I established at once that you couldn't be the perpetrator of this crime. You did? Why? How are you so sure? My dear fellow, his tummy rumbled. There are 2 things in which world one can rely on with total certainty. The first is the word of a great detective, and the second is the tragic rumbling of an empty belly. Ugh, not again. When I first entered this cabin, there did arise from this gentleman a belly rumbling so odiously tragic, it confirmed beyond all doubt. The man had not eaten a single rib steak in some time, let alone 3. I'm very hungry. Why do I have to suffer this humiliation when I've done nothing wrong? Curses! I will catch this thief. He could not have gone far. Indeed, assuming he decided against a post-meal constitutional swim. Well, if you'll excuse me now, my apologies for upsetting your evening. Detective, one moment, please. Yes? That was a most remarkable deduction. Perhaps you'd be kind enough to tell me your name? Ah, it's quite slipped my mind. You have been talking with the one and only Herlock Sholmes. I see. Well, I'm Kazuma Asogi. I'm a student on my way to Great Britain. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Mr. Asogi. Oh, and before I forget, yes? I feel I should warn you. Live cargo is strictly forbidden on this vessel. So you would do well to conceal the stowaway currently lying low under your bed as carefully as possible. Oh. Under the bed? I bid you farewell, then, Mr. Asogi. He knew? Specialist expected nothing less of a great detective. Now then. When did you move in under the bed? I thought we'd had it when he opened the wardrobe door. Ah, well. It's thanks to that split-second chance you engineered. Then I what? You distracted him for a moment, remember? When you suggested that he investigated the other cabins instead. Oh yeah, he turned to look towards the corridor, didn't he? Also, it's very weird to see our protagonist in, like, this screen. Well, I couldn't see what he was doing, of course, but I thought to myself, it's now or never. The next thing I knew, I was under the bed. You really know how to give me a scare, don't you? Anyway, what's all this about rib steaks, eh? Sorry about that. I've just been so hungry. Ever since we left Japan, stuck in that tiny wardrobe. Oh, you should know. You've been splitting all your meals with me. You must be starving too, surely. And there was that power cut before, wasn't there? For about 10 minutes. So it was then. I caught a whiff of the most delicious smell. And I thought to myself, it's now or never. Next thing I knew, I had the steak in my hands. This man just can't help getting himself into trouble. Alright, you're hungry. But 3 steaks? Thanks to you, 3 crewmen are gonna go without tonight, I imagine. No, it was just the one. What? I only took 1 rib steak from the kitchen. That's all. But I don't understand. Hey, I'm not that selfish. If I'd stolen 3 steaks, I'd at least have tossed 1 your way. I'm not your pet dog. In that case, who stole the other 2? Do you think could there be a ghost on board? A meat-loving ghost? There can only have been a single bone in that wardrobe when Rena moved to hide under the bed. Which means that the other 2 bones could have come from one flesh and blood person. What's so funny? We're on a haunted ghost ship. A great detective, or a great mischief maker? Either way, I think I'd like to spend a little more time getting to know that man. You're gonna fuck him! The great Erlock Sholmes. Oh my god, maybe it's fitting that we got Swan in Sholmes' outfit. Alright. Taylor, I think we just have the 2. And it's only for use in Ace Attorney 2, or Great Ace Attorney 2. That's cute. Sholmes' Japanese jumble mix. Fucking weeb. Maybe we'll play with these on our, in the playthrough of the second game. I'm wondering if there's more, but... Spirit of Justice would have had better DLC costumes if they let in the samurai outfits. Each Iris's outfit has a hidden plushie on it. So that's on the shoulder. What is that? It's at her wrist or waist. And then... Sholmes made this, so there's no plush on it. He's just being a weeb. What is it? Like... It's right there on the wrist. If there was like a way to view the model... Oh, I'm terrified to look in here. Moving pictures. Oh, we didn't get the achievement. Didn't get the achievement for checking the bed. Behind the bed. Damn. Well, That was fun. Right. Totally distracted. Nice. Good stream for the night. Do we have anyone streaming? Thought so far. I'm really enjoying it. Like, I'm still enjoying it. I do enjoy how Shums... I don't get why Shums was so focused. Like, we told him from the very beginning that Asogi was our best friend. Or that, Kazuma was our best friend. So I guess, like, he only believed us once we were able to get the blame shifted from us. I'm hoping, like, he'll have a smoother ride through the next... Because I'm assuming he's sticking with us. Little Benoy. But yeah. That's going to be it for me for tonight. Next stream, probably going to be next Thursday, because I think I have D&D Monday. Yeah. I'm wondering if it's going to be 2 streams per case, I'm wondering. I doubt it's going to stick like that as we get later in the game, but yeah. Are we keeping the inspector, or is he going home? Oh god, the inspector's gonna die next. Aw. I can't believe they killed Hasanaga. Alright. Well, that'll be it for me tonight. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Don't forget, take your medicine, drink your water, go to bed at a decent time. Unlike me last night, holy fuck. And I'll see you guys next time. Love you. Mwah.